It's kind of weird, for a grown woman to be living with her parents. Stand on your own 2 feet, girl. Be independent. That's Ava preaching away. Little did she know those words would come back to haunt her. My name's Zoe. Living the single life with my work as my partner at 35. I had relationships in my 20s, but before I knew it, I was single, cruising into my mid-30s. But hey, I haven't given up on marriage just yet. Currently, I live with my dad and mom. My job's going well, and both my parents are healthy and kicking. Life feels pretty good, with no real complaints or worries, except there's this one person who just won't stop nagging at me. So, Zoe, planning on staying single forever? Well, I'd get married if the right person comes along, but right now I'm enjoying my work. She snickers in a mocking tone. Enjoying your work, huh? That's just an excuse to cover up your pathetic inability to get married. People like you drown in work to escape reality. Who is she calling pathetic? The person looking down on me for being single is none other than my brother Henry's wife, Ava. She holds this prejudice that being married somehow elevates her above singles. Henry, who's 3 years older than me, got married just about a year ago. I remember the first time Ava visited our home. Wait, Zoe, you're 34 and don't have a boyfriend? That's kinda sad, isn't it? Have you ever even dated? If you want, I could introduce you to some of my friends. They're a bit quirky, but hey, at your age, shouldn't you be compromising a bit? Or you'll never get married. Never in a million years did I think I'd be slapped with such rudeness upon our first meeting. I was caught off guard and mumbled, well, Ava's my age. Is she trying to flaunt that she managed to get married and I didn't? She's always tried to act superior to me from the get-go. Moreover, Ava's incredibly thoughtless. She Googled the average salary at my company and blurted out, "Hey, those international companies pay well, right? How much do you earn? What's your bonus? You've saved quite a bit, haven't you?" No matter if she's family by marriage, that's just not something you ask. That's not really something I'd like to. I skillfully dodged the topic and changed the subject. I thought if I gave off vibes that I didn't want to discuss it, she wouldn't push. But Ava turned out to be even more oblivious to social cues than I thought, to the point where I wondered if she was from another planet. Why are you avoiding it? Just tell me your salary. Well, usually people don't share that kind of information. Really? I want to know. Tell me. As I sighed and asked, "Why are you so interested in it?" she casually replied, "Why can't I know about my sister-in-law's financial situation?" Why would she need to know that in the first place? I felt we fundamentally viewed things differently. From that point, I tried to avoid her, but Ava's insensitivity knew no bounds. One holiday, Ava, who visited our family home, said, "Hey Zoe, I found this in your room the other day," showing me my bonus statement. She probably rummaged through my room on a weekday when I wasn't there. Dad and Mom's living area is on the first floor, while my room is on the second. Maybe they didn't notice her going upstairs. It was like she was a thief. "Hey, what are you doing?" "You seem to earn quite a lot, Zoe. Why didn't you tell us? More importantly, how could you just enter my room like that? Isn't that extremely rude?" "It's because you hide your annual income. If you earn so much, you could have given more for the wedding gift. What you gave was just pennies." Isn't $1,000 enough? What's with this woman? Not just inconsiderate, she seemed overly obsessed with money. Angry, I firmly told her, You are, after all, just my sister-in-law. There are things I don't want to say and things I want to keep to myself. Please don't intrude in my private matters. She probably didn't appreciate being told off by someone who, albeit in law, was younger than her. Fuming and face red, she shouted, "What? How dare you? Acting all high and mighty even though you're single." With that, she stormed off. I wonder what being single has to do with anything. I wish she'd leave me alone. I was the one who wanted to be mad. I hoped that after speaking up, she'd be more considerate. That's what I thought. But after that, Ava's attacks on me intensified. Being single is such a burden on society. At least when you're married, there's a chance of having kids, supporting the country's future. Singles are just selfish and self-centered. In front of Dad, Mom, and even other relatives, she openly criticized singlehood, making it seem like a direct attack on me. Her narrative shifted from being married is better than being single to an outright assault on single people. At that, even my dad and mom were taken aback. You shouldn't have such prejudices. Whether single or married, everyone's still a person. Exactly. Zoe works hard and contributes to society. Mom scolded Ava. But she didn't seem convinced. What's the big deal? I work part-time and I'm married, so I contribute more to society than Zoe. Dad and Mom couldn't help but laugh at that. Around that time, it was discovered that there was a major termite infestation in the walls of Dad and Mom's house. The house was over 40 years old, showing signs of wear and tear here and there. They had managed by patching up things over the years. But termites were a different issue and couldn't be ignored. The conversation turned to getting rid of them. They wondered, though, if treating it now would prevent future infestations, or if it even made sense to spend money on a house so old. That's when I chimed in. Why not sell this place and buy a single-family home? Fortunately, living at home and not splurging too much, I had saved a decent amount. But can we afford a single-family home? Dad was concerned. Don't worry, I'm 35 now. I can manage buying a house. I reassured them, deciding to purchase it under my name. I only told Henry about moving to a new home because of the aging of the current one. In response, he said, "Then hand over Dad and Mom's house to me." However, when I mentioned the hefty renovation costs, he quickly backtracked with a, "Never mind then." Once we purchased the new home and completed the move, as Dad, Mom, and I were about to start our exhilarating new life, Henry and Ava paid us a visit at an unexpected time when our boxes were still unpacked. Wow, this place is spacious. 2 floors, even a proper room for kids. It even has a yard. Nice. I thought they came to congratulate us on our move, but I was mistaken. We came to announce that I'm pregnant. To the unexpected joyful news, Dad, Mom, and I congratulated them. Congratulations! Take good care of yourself. Childbirth can be tough, especially the first time. Let us know if you need anything. Both Dad and Mom looked overjoyed at the prospect of their first grandchild. Thank you. In that case, we'll move in from today. Excuse me? Dad, Mom, and I were completely caught off guard by this sudden declaration. Wait, that's a bit sudden. We don't have room for another family. Yes, this house can't accommodate 6 people. Dad and Mom somehow conveyed their reluctance. You're overthinking this. Why not just ask this single lady there to leave? Ava said, looking smugly at me. Wait, me? Yes, you. Aren't you embarrassed? Always relying on father-in-law at your age? Even letting him buy you a house? You are just trying to take advantage of everything good here. We have the important job of bringing the next generation into this family. You are in the way. Please leave this house. Ava looked at me with her arms crossed and a malicious glint in her eye. Besides, it's weird for a grown woman to be living with her father and mother. Stand on your own 2 feet. Ava continued her snide sermon. Henry chimed in.
You can't always lean on Dad and Mom. Listen, for your own good, you need to move out and be independent.
How dare they? Well, you see, this house is... I was about to say that the house was under my name, when Dad spoke up on my behalf.
All right, so you two want to move in here?
Ava grinned at his words. Yes, and in the future, we'll take good care of father-in-law and mother-in-law.
But you'll need to pay rent. How about $800? Rent? Dad, you're going to take money from your kids? If you're talking about being independent, then paying rent makes sense. Around here, $800 is the going rate. $800? That's still a good deal. Renting an entire house around here will cost more than $1,000. This area is close to the station, and the land value is high.
Henry and Ava were taken aback by the amount, but they couldn't back down after making a big deal about being independent. Isn't that a bit much? What's the point of living together if we're paying that? Ava whispered this to Henry, but it was audible enough.
Well, we'll figure it out. We'll take the 2nd floor.
Then it's settled. Zoe, please leave soon. You're in the way. The couple went upstairs, brimming with enthusiasm. Wow, these rooms are so spacious. And look at all this storage. It's a good thing we got her to leave.
Yeah, with her gone, this house will eventually be ours. Everything's going our way.
As they happily discussed this at the top of their voices, Dad, Mom, and I exchanged knowing looks. How could they be so excited without knowing the full story? Dad had kept the fact that the house was in my name a secret for a strategic reason. After being ousted by Henry and his wife, I relaxed in a short-term rental apartment. Then one day, I got a call from Ava. Hey, I noticed father-in-law and mother-in-law are gone, and their stuff is too. Did you possibly pick them up to help me out? No, Dad and Mom decided to move in with me on their own. I couldn't help but smirk as I said this. Right there, Dad and Mom were sipping coffee casually. Oh, really? Well, that's fine. Being pregnant and living with them was pretty exhausting anyway. This works out. How could she easily forget the kindness of letting her stay and then say such a thing? She better brace herself. Her comfort is about to end. So that means next month's rent is $1,600. Okay? Excuse me? I mean, you need to pay the full rent for that house. What? What are you talking about? Well, up until now, Dad, Mom, and you and Henry split the rent in half, right? Now that Dad and Mom have left, isn't it only fair that you two cover the entire amount? Ava seems clueless. Why are you acting all high and mighty? That house belongs to father-in-law, doesn't it? What are you talking about? I own that house. What? A brief silence enveloped Ava and me. I decided to explain the situation clearly. It seems you're not aware, so let me explain. The house is in my name, and I paid for it with my own money. Until yesterday, because Dad and Mom lived with you, I charged each party $800, a total of $1,600 for rent. Now, since Dad and Mom left, only you and Henry are living there. Therefore, I'll need the full $1,600 for rent next month. The reason Dad stopped me from revealing I was the homeowner was precisely for moments like this. It was a secret plan to teach the overbearing Henry and Ava a lesson. I didn't know any of this. Bring back father-in-law and mother-in-law. This isn't right. Thrown off by the amount of $1,600, Ava's tone grew frantic. Hold on, didn't you tell me to stand on my own, Ava? Living with parents is what dependent people do, right? I continued, dripping with sarcasm. If you can't even pay half on your own, it means you aren't independent. That's why Dad and Mom made the decision to move out. No, that's not what I meant. I'm really grateful to Dad and Mom. They've taught us the importance of independence firsthand. So, I'll be expecting that $1,600 next month. Got it? What? Wait a minute. I hung up without waiting for a response. A few hours later, Henry called me.
Hey, what's with changing the house title and the rent? Why are you making all these decisions without consulting?
Making decisions? That's rich, coming from you. Who moved into a house that wasn't theirs and then acted like I was the intruder? Wasn't it you who kept going on about being independent? Henry seemed at a loss for words. If you can't pay, can you move out? I don't want someone who can't even afford rent living here.
Wait, just wait. We're having a baby, okay? I'll pay the $800, just let us stay.
Do you really have a child on the way? Ava doesn't look pregnant.
What?
Mom said that even though Ava should be around 6 months pregnant, she doesn't look it at all. Were you lying? Henry's silence was all the answer I needed. If you don't leave, I'll consider taking legal action. Clearly scared by that, Henry quickly said,
Okay, we'll move out,
and hung up. When Dad and Mom confronted Ava, she immediately admitted that she faked her pregnancy. I thought if I said we were having a grandchild, you'd be kinder to me. Father-in-law and mother-in-law always dote on Zoe and are harsh to me. But Dad and Mom were never cold to Ava. They always kept a respectful distance as in-laws and only admonished Ava when she belittled me. And yet she faked a pregnancy? Maybe she really is from another planet. After that, Henry and Ava moved out and rented a new apartment. It was peak moving season, so it seemed they ended up spending more than they had anticipated. Renting a new place isn't cheap, with all the deposits and upfront costs. The carefree couple, Henry and Ava, appeared to have no intention of saving money. They visited Dad and Mom several times seeking financial help, but were always turned down.
There are lies one shouldn't tell as a human being. I don't want to associate with someone who doesn't understand that,
said Dad very rightly. From that point on, Dad and Mom kept their distance from Henry and Ava. Without any help from my parents, and unable to get a loan from the bank, Henry and Ava's life seemed to be spiraling into poverty. Well, they always talked about standing on their own, so now's their chance, right? I'm curious about how they'll manage.
By the way, Zoe,
Dad said with a tone of concern,
I've been thinking about your future. I know you're independent, but would you consider going on a matchmaking date just once for me?
I've got someone good in mind. The son of a friend of ours. Why not meet him? Mom added, surprisingly suggesting an arranged date. Can I really do this?
Don't doubt yourself. You're my pride and joy.
Dad reassured me. Thank you, Dad. And you too, Mom. We both appreciate everything. Dad gently patted my head. Maybe happiness comes in unexpected ways. All right, I'll give this matchmaking thing a try. I had a good feeling about this. It seemed like a new adventure was about to begin.
Dad's collapsed. While I was preparing dinner, my husband Caden rushed home. What? We hurried to the hospital where his father was taken. He had suffered a subarachnoid hemorrhage. By the time he was brought in, it was too late. His father passed away. My name is Alicia. Caden and I were college friends. We reconnected at a reunion and started dating. We have been married for 2 years now, both of us, 32. Caden's father owned a company. Caden had always been learning the ropes under him, but with his sudden passing, Caden was set to take over as CEO. I thought there might be some resistance to such a young CEO, but seeing Caden's dedication, he was surprisingly accepted smoothly. He even got along with the senior executives, or so I thought at the time. A year after Caden took over the company, he came home, ate his dinner in silence, and started drinking. Caden wasn't much of a drinker. Hey, are you sure you should be drinking that much? Mind your own business. But you have work tomorrow, right? Just leave me alone. I don't care about the job anymore. The company's going under anyway. Caden blurted out, visibly upset. What do you mean going under? Things aren't going well? Yeah, they say the company's falling because I took over. With that, Caden slammed his drink on the table. They keep saying I should know better as a CEO, that I should take responsibility. The board always criticizes me. I don't think I can handle it anymore. Caden's face shifted from anger to the brink of tears. Sure, Caden might have his shortcomings. It's natural for a CEO to take responsibility. But from what he's told me, it seems the board is putting too much on him. His father always treated me like his own daughter and helped us a lot. The thought of Caden ruining the company his father started was unbearable. Is there anything I can do to help? Caden looked up, a hint of annoyance in his eyes. Well, you have experience in accounting and a secretary certification. You could be of help, but I don't know if it's cool to ask my wife for help. Is this really the time to worry about that? I was getting frustrated with Caden's indecisiveness and snapped at him. Your father trained you to take over, right? And you're okay with ruining it in just a year? That seemed to light a fire in Caden. We vowed to work together to turn the company around. I decided to quit my job and support Caden as his secretary. Once I started working there, I noticed a significant gap between the older, long-standing employees and the younger ones. Despite the world moving towards digitalization, the older employees were stuck in their ways, leading to inefficiencies and extra costs. When I tried to implement changes, they resisted fiercely, but I stood my ground. But I said, if you can't adapt, you're welcome to resign. I was met with glares, but saving the company was the priority. The reforms Caden and I initiated started to show positive results. The older employees, though initially resistant, began to adapt, learning from the younger ones. As the company's atmosphere improved, so did interpersonal relationships, which positively impacted other areas of the business. We even managed to secure new clients, and the company began to stabilize. A year later, the company made a remarkable turnaround, achieved rapid growth. We have been through a lot last year and couldn't celebrate. How about we go out for dinner for our anniversary this year? Sure, next month is our wedding anniversary. Lately, we haven't had any private time together, but I have been longing for some. But Caden's response was cold. Am I the only one excited? He is busy now, but I'm sure he's thinking about it too. That's what I thought as our anniversary approached. After work, Caden called me over. Maybe he's going to tell me about plans for later. I was foolish to even hope for a moment. Caden, who called me, said something I never expected. You're no longer needed. Let's get a divorce. I couldn't believe my ears. What? Didn't you hear? I want a divorce. Why? Caden laughed at me mockingly. Because my company is fine without you now. You're obsolete. What? You always taking the lead, making it seem like you're in control. I was blinded by anger. So you can quit, finish the handover by the end of the month. Stamp this and you can leave the house too. He then produced a pre-filled divorce application. Is he serious? At that moment, I still felt sad. But in the next moment, that feeling vanished. My new secretary is already decided. Ariel, come in. The door to the CEO's office opened and a woman in her mid-20s entered. This is your wife? I thought she would be prettier, she rudely commented. Who is this woman? My replacement as the CEO's secretary? Right, Ariel is way better, so I'm not motivated with you. With Ariel as my secretary, I think I can do better. For some reason, the two started getting close. Oh, I see what's going on. I reached my breaking point. Is she a competent secretary? Yeah, and as you can see, she's beautiful. If I take her around, our clients will be more lenient. Plus, what's important is my motivation as a CEO. Just her looks? I couldn't help but speak my mind. Kaden was furious. That's not the only reason. She's also excellent as a secretary. Oh, okay. Then let's switch secretaries. I'll quit today, I said, snatching the divorce application and leaving the CEO's office. I must have looked really upset on my way out. A young office worker approached me. Alicia, what happened? She asked timidly. I thought it would be rude to leave without telling anyone, so I told the young workers who were still there about what happened. What's gotten into the CEO? This company was saved thanks to you, Alicia. The employees sympathized with me, but I didn't care about Kaden anymore. Then, one employee hesitated and spoke up. Could the woman I saw with the CEO the other day be... Several people reported seeing Kaden with that woman. Apparently, she had been around for a few months. She wasn't a secretary, but a club girl from a place Kaden frequented for business entertainment. So their relationship had evolved into that? The sightings always happen on days I left work early. He would say he had work left or a business dinner. I offered to help or join if it was with clients, but he always refused. Now I understood why. Some employees had considered telling me but didn't want to hurt me with mere suspicions. They decided to wait for concrete evidence, although they tried to persuade me to stay. I couldn't. After all, Kaden was still the CEO. I said my goodbyes. Most of the executives had gone home, but a few remained in a conference room. I knocked on the door. When they opened, they looked flustered. I noticed some documents but ignored them. I've decided to leave the company. Please take care of things from now on. They simply thanked me for my hard work, so I left. The next day, I quickly found a new place and moved out while Kaden was away. I filed the divorce papers and took a deep breath. What had my life become? I visited my father-in-law's grave thinking it was the end. That's when I finally cried. But I believed I had managed to save his company. It wouldn't go bankrupt unless something drastic happened. A month after divorcing Kaden, some younger employees contacted me. The new secretary was always by Kaden's side but barely worked. She was disrespectful to other employees and had no redeeming qualities besides her looks. They begged me to return, but I declined. Then, an idea struck me. With the skills I had gained over the past year, I could start my own business. I began studying and fundraising for my startup. 3 months later, I launched a new company with one of the workers from Kaden's firm. Other employees soon joined us, although we weren't stable yet. Most were willing to take the risk. We owe our jobs to you, Alicia. We want to help. I'm here because I want to follow you, not the company. So I decided to work hard with everyone. Around that time, Kaden contacted me. You're poaching my employees. Really? Your company's in trouble again? I laughed at the once condescending Kaden. That's because you're poaching my employees. You are the one who's been using my credit card even after our divorce. You'll pay for that. What? That's my card. Busy now. Don't contact me again. I hung up and called my lawyer. Soon Kaden was served with a lawsuit for compensation due to the divorce. A week later, he visited my office. You are the CEO now? You owe it all to me. What? What do you want now? I'm busy, so make it quick, I said, clearly annoyed. Kaden then pulled out some documents from a lawyer. What's this all about? It's a compensation claim for your affair during our divorce proceedings, plus the credit card bills you racked up after our divorce. It's only fair. You easily agreed to the divorce and now you're suddenly claiming compensation? Didn't you know? Compensation claims from divorce proceedings are valid for 3 years after the divorce. You brought the divorce papers and even brought along your affair partner, Ariel. I thought you would expect a claim. Kaden's face turned pale, seemingly unaware of this. Everyone at the office gave me evidence of your affair. On days I left early, you always seemed restless, unlike me who never suspected a thing. They noticed. They followed you and took photos. The dates on those photos are from before our divorce. Kaden looked even paler, but I didn't hold back. And the credit card? You used my family card on dates with her at restaurants, bars, and more. How could you use a traceable card for your affairs? I sighed in disbelief. Suddenly, Caden's demeanor changed. I'm sorry, I truly am. Now you apologize? Actually, my company is on the brink of bankruptcy. Our clients are leaving, and I can't afford the compensation. I need your help. I couldn't help but laugh. How many times will you run your company into the ground? If you're in such a pinch, why not ask your competent secretary for help? But Ariel, she doesn't even have a secretary certification and can't do the job. My laughter grew louder. You said her beauty would charm clients, right? But when I took her to the clients, she was so rude that we lost more and more of them. Now, only a couple of companies whose older CEOs like Ariel remain. Huh, figures. Those companies that left you, they're now our clients. What? I didn't steal them. It's natural for companies to seek better partnerships. No way. By the way, are your company's executives still around? Well, only the younger ones moved here. The older ones are still executives. You should investigate them for embezzlement. Embezzlement? Yes. I noticed some suspicious financial activities. I wanted to discuss it, but you dismissed me. Maybe now you can save your company? They probably made you CEO because they thought they could easily embezzle. Caden was speechless, but I wasn't just being kind. So you'll probably save your company. Make sure to pay the full compensation from our divorce in one go. Considering the division of assets, you can't afford it. Don't come here anymore. You're a distraction. I sent a dejected Caden away and got back to work. Later, I received the full compensation from Caden and Ariel. As for his company, they are suing the executives for embezzlement, but it seems they will go bankrupt. After all the effort to save it, he lacked business acumen. It made me reflect on my poor judgment. But now, as a CEO, I'm thriving, enjoying life with the hefty compensation from the divorce.
I'm Chloe, a 36-year-old mom with a past marriage under my belt. I used to work as a bartender, but now I'm a stay-at-home mom to a 3-year-old boy. Life is good now, but my marriage to my ex-husband was a mess. The mess was largely because of my ex-husband, but there was actually another reason. That was my sister, who's 2 years younger than me. Jessica managed to steal my then-husband right from under my nose. This all happened 3 years ago. I ran into my ex-husband and Jessica at church, of all places, just around New Year's about 2 months ago. When we told them that the child with us was fathered by my ex-husband, they were at a loss for words, and their faces dropped. Considering they were struggling to have a child, the disappointment was visible. It gave me a moment of relief, thinking about how they betrayed me back then. Back then, I was bartending at a well-known bar where I caught the eye of a regular customer. This was the kind of bar frequented by politicians, bureaucrats, and business moguls. I had some experience bartending elsewhere, but got this gig through a friend's introduction. After working there for a few months, I met the man who would later become my ex-husband, a government official. I was around 30, starting to think it was high time to settle down. "You're really cute. Totally my type," he told me, clearly smitten. My prestigious college background and my job at a major investment firm might have added to his interest. Honestly, I didn't care that he was a bureaucrat, but his flattery had me hooked. "I would never do anything to make a beautiful woman like you sad," he said. In hindsight, I deeply regret believing those words. Our marriage lasted only 2 years. The only time I felt happy was during the first 2 months. Despite his demanding job, my ex-husband always showed me a smiling face when he came home. But eventually, those smiles disappeared. To cut to the chase, my ex-husband was careless in his relationships with women. Believing that all social engagements were part of work, I later found out that he had been flirting with women at every party he attended. Back then, I had no idea. "You must be tired after all that networking today. Want to take a bath?" I would always say, caring and supportive. What a fantastic wife I was. But after only 6 months, he would brazenly say to me, "Stop worrying about me. Just be thankful you're living a good life because of me." Still, I convinced myself that he was just tipsy and let it slide. Looking back now, I feel like crying from the sheer effort I put into our relationship. I have a younger sister, 2 years my junior. We look nothing alike, and our personalities are polar opposites. Growing up, Jessica always wanted what I had. She would beg my mom for the same beads and hair accessories that I had in my jewelry box. Eventually, Jessica stopped asking Mom and started taking them directly from me. When I confronted her, she'd cry and say, "But everything that belongs to you belongs to me." My little sister was a bully. That little bully grew up to be an adult bully. After a year of marriage, we attended a family event at my parents' house. My husband was there too. My husband had seen Jessica a few times before, but it seemed like they had a little chat this time. I overheard him talking briefly to Jessica. "You're quite different from your sister. A different kind of beauty," I overheard him say to her. It's likely that from that moment, Jessica set her sights on my husband. After that, he seemed even more disinterested in me than before. "Hey, are you free next week? There's this restaurant I want to try." "Forget it. You know I'm not available, so why even ask?" I put up with it for a while, because we both shared the desire to have children. Love might be gone, but the desire for a child remained. However, tests at the hospital showed that the problem lay with him, not me. Despite the diagnosis, we both continued to seek treatment. In a blink, a year passed. By this point, I had stopped worrying about what my husband was doing or where he was. I knew that if I even asked him to stop, he wouldn't listen. I figured he was involved with multiple women. But I never thought one of those women would be my own sister. I was utterly blindsided. It wasn't some revelation that made me realize my husband and Jessica were having an affair. "You know, sis, your marriage is pretty much over. But if you're not careful, you'll lose more than that," she hinted. "What are you saying? Don't tell me you..." "Whatever happens, it's your fault." Seeing the naive yet malicious Jessica after so long sent chills down my spine. After that conversation, I confronted my husband to get to the truth. "Hey, you're not having an affair with my sister, are you? Tell me it's not true." "What if I am?" "Don't dodge the question. Just tell me." "God, you're so annoying." "Fine, yes, I am. So, what now? Want a divorce?" "You're the worst. Do you even realize what you're doing?" "You should be saying that to your sister. She's the one who came on to me." "Even if she did, why would you go along with it?" "Well, I'm a guy, so can't help it." "I can't believe you're doing this with Jessica. You know what? Fine, we're done. We were always over anyway. Bye." Even though the love was always gone between me and my husband, learning he cheated with my sister Jessica was a hard pill to swallow. And the audacity he had to casually admit it, it felt like both of them were mocking me. The frustration was unbearable. I divorced him right after this shocking truth came to light. As for Jessica, I cut her off via email and chose to put the incident behind me. About a month later, an unexpected turn came my way. A female colleague from my days working in finance reached out. We were connected on social media and occasionally exchanged messages. But it had been a long time since we had met for drinks. We caught up and had a great time. Although my story was grim, she laughed it off and mentioned someone she wanted to introduce me to. Enter Ethan, my current husband. Ethan was her investment buddy. He was just an average office worker, but had a knack for investing, managing a significant portfolio. They'd become friends through offline meetups she organized based on his investment blog. I took an instant liking to the upbeat Ethan. I've been divorced before. Is that all right? I'm still single. Is that okay? We both just had to laugh it off. Ethan seemed to think we clicked, and we started dating right away. We got married after about 6 months. Chloe, want to invest in me? Marry me. I couldn't help but laugh at Ethan's unique proposal. I believed his proposal was one where I could see us being happy together for the rest of our lives. The truth is, I was already pregnant with Ethan's child even before I got remarried. Actually, shortly after we started dating. We'd both been considering marriage, so finding out about the pregnancy sped up the timing. 2 people in love, and the precious baby that was the fruit of our love. I couldn't be happier. For our first holiday season together, let's go to church and pray for the health of our adorable baby. The fact that they arrived so quickly is proof that our meeting was destiny, don't you think? Sounds good. Yes, let's go. In the midst of my newfound happiness, something unexpected happened at the church we were attending for service. Guess who? My ex-husband and Jessica. Seeing them together for the first time in over a year, they really seemed like a married couple. I had already told Ethan all the miserable details about these two. Hey, I'm going to talk to them. Is that okay? I don't mind. You sure you're okay with it? Yeah, I'm fine. Look, I'll explain later. But can you play along that this baby is my ex's child? As my ex-husband and Jessica approached us, we pretended not to notice and went up to them. Wow, what a coincidence. It's been ages, sis. Jessica's face, which I hadn't seen in a long time, seemed even more twisted than before. How nice to see you two look so happy together. We are. We're officially married now. Nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you. Really? Like what? Anyway, why'd you go and have a baby with this guy? He doesn't look like he's got much of a future. Poor kid. Don't ever become the type of person who can only judge others by their looks or titles, okay? Ethan said this as if he was talking to the baby, but the snide remark was clearly aimed at Jessica. Bold words for a first meeting. Do you even know who I am? Of course, you're some kind of big shot, right? Nice to meet you, by the way. Do you realize that this is actually your child? At Ethan's statement, my ex-husband and Jessica froze. They seemed completely baffled. What are you talking about? Stop joking. Jessica, who was eager to have a child, looked incredibly frustrated. It turns out they still hadn't been able to have children. Actually, right after we got divorced, I found out I was pregnant. Surprising, right? Not that it's your child, but that I finally got the child I've been wishing for. I met Ethan soon after, and we got married. He agreed to raise this child with me, unlike you. You're kidding, really? Why hasn't it happened for us? Why can't we have a child? I don't know. Maybe because karma is real. Maybe if you start doing good deeds, like volunteering or donating to charities, your wishes will come true. Since you're at church, why not pray for that?
You can't be serious. There's no way I can let this guy raise my special child. He comes from a line of bureaucrats. This can't happen.
Both of them were completely rattled. Jessica looked like she was about to cry, frantically trying to gain some sort of upper hand over us. Look, I talked to Mom. This guy's just an office worker. Raising a child with a man who doesn't even make that much? That's just asking for this kid to be unhappy. And let's not forget, the child's biological father is from our family. Shouldn't we have the right to raise them? Am I wrong?
Absolutely. And you know, even after the divorce, if you knew you were pregnant, you had a responsibility to tell me. After all, it's my child.
You think a person like you can raise a child? Don't kid yourself. You don't have the right to know, let alone the right to raise this child.
Hey. Stop this ugly argument in front of the baby. You abandoned Chloe and this child, remember? Just like Chloe said. You don't have any obligation to be informed or any right to be involved. Sorry, but it's true. And for your information, I might be an office worker, but I've done well in investments. I actually have more assets than you. I don't mean to brag, but...
Don't worry, this child won't be unhappy.
Shall we go, Chloe?
Yeah, take care, especially you two, the careless womanizer and the greedy one. Ignoring the flustered and frustrated pair, we left the church. I'm sorry you got caught up in this, and thank you for going along with me.
No problem at all, honestly. I'm impressed with how well I went along with it.
I mean, that was some award-winning acting. I fell for you all over again. I never thought I'd end up at the church for the sake of this child, let alone run into those two there. But thanks to that, I was able to get back at my ex-husband and Jessica. I was secretly waiting for this moment. The moment I saw them at the church, it hit me. I could make them squirm with a lie, claiming the baby is from my ex-husband. I'm fully aware it's a cruel lie, generally speaking. But let's not forget the heartless things those two have done to me in the past. No regrets. It was a necessary lie to maintain my sanity going forward. Mom, you don't have to tell Jessica about me, okay? You know the situation, right? Oops, my bad, but what happened to that girl? Don't worry about it. Sorry for all the worry I've caused you. That's what I wanted to say. It's okay, as long as you're healthy and happy. You're getting along with your current partner, right? Absolutely. I'm scared of how happy I am, actually. Having daughters who've swapped the same man as their husband would have been a big worry for Mom. I was always concerned about how this could be a strain on her heart. And the fact she's living alone in the family home since my dad passed away, that's another concern for me. When I mentioned this to Ethan, he was the one who suggested we should move in with Mom. Are you sure?
I really like your mom, Chloe. She's a fun person. Living with her would be like having two Chloes around. It'll be fun.
Wow. Should I take that as a compliment? It made me realize how understanding he is.
Plus, Mom would be thrilled to see her grandchild every day, and we'd have an extra pair of hands to help with the kid.
I can't thank you enough, Ethan.
So, you love me even more now?
Let me think about that.
What do you mean, let me think?
The peak of happiness is still ongoing.
Really? Picking up in work clothes? Seriously? I heard this preschool was the best around here, but I didn't expect to see bottom feeders like you hanging around. Bottom feeders? Isn't that a bit rude to say out of the blue? What's wrong with telling the truth? You're an eyesore. You should just leave the school. My name is Emily. I live with my husband Mason and our 4-year-old son. Mason and I started dating in college. After graduation, he returned to his hometown, and we had a long-distance relationship for a while. But 2 years later, he proposed and we got married. I moved to his hometown to start our life together. At first, adjusting to the new climate, local customs, and not knowing my way around was challenging. But Mason always supported me. When I asked the locals for help or advice, I found that most of them were genuinely kind-hearted. At first, I was really anxious, but now I feel like this place suits me better.
That's a relief to hear. Your parents told me if you ever make our daughter unhappy after taking her so far away, we'll never forgive you. Your brothers also warned me if you ever make Emily cry, we'll beat you up.
What? My brothers said that?
Yeah, but hearing that made me realize how much you're loved. It also made me more determined to make you happy.
Mason said with a smile. Being married to Mason, I felt truly blessed. Soon after, I became pregnant. After giving birth in my hometown, I returned to our home. My parents and brothers were worried, but Mason and our neighbors supported me through the challenges of parenting. This spring, our son started preschool. Many of my mom buddies from the parenting group also have their kids in the same school, which is comforting. The teachers are as kind and reliable as their reputation suggests. We all felt every day is so much fun. But then, things started to change because of a new family. Lily and her child who joined the preschool. Lily, who moved from the city due to her husband's sudden job transfer, had a very strong personality. She once looked at the school's lunch menu and exclaimed, "What? Swedish meatballs for kids? That's like poor people food. And cornbread for a snack? I would expect that for old people, not kids. That is why I can't stand country folks." She quickly made enemies with all the moms, teachers, and even the cafeteria staff. She would also mock other moms, saying things like, "Where did you get that dress? The pattern looks like a toilet seat cover." Or, "Is that a stripped pattern? It's hard to tell with all the extra weight you're carrying." "You look like a watermelon if it were green and black." Her son, Benjamin, was no better. He would tease other kids, saying things like, "When your mom walks, the ground shakes." The teachers and principal would reprimand him, but Lily would just say, "Oh, so you get scolded for telling the truth in this school? Country life is so strange. I wonder if sensitive souls like us can really fit in here. Living in the countryside can be so daunting. I wonder if sensitive folks like us, parents and child, can really manage." The exaggerated way she said it made it clear, like mother, like son. I was naturally one of her targets, but I felt she teased and made snide remarks at me more persistently than the other moms. I wondered why. Then Mason said,
"I'm sorry, the reason Lily is so hard on you might be because of me."
Confused, I asked what he meant. He revealed,
"Actually, Lily's husband is my half-brother."
According to Mason, after his biological mother passed away, young, his father, Ryan, remarried. Ryan's new wife, Fiona, gave birth to Lily's husband, Tyler.
You remember only Ryan attended our wedding, right? Yes, after Fiona had Tyler, I felt out of place at home. I grew up with my maternal grandparents. My uncle's family lived there too, and they treated me like their own.
They are really kind to me too.
To be honest, my connection with my dad was just him sending child support. I never really felt like his son. I even debated inviting him to our wedding, but my uncle said, "He's still your father," so I did.
I get that you and Lily are related by marriage, but why is she always picking on me? Apparently, Lily's husband, Mason's half-brother, often visits Mason's company for business. Once, Lily saw him and ranted, "Why does my elite husband have to bow to a factory worker like you?" Although Tyler and others calmed her down, she probably held a grudge, and that's why she's been nasty to me.
Lily doesn't know I'm Tyler's half-brother. If she bothers you too much, let me know.
Mason offered, but I figured she would get bored eventually and decided to ignore her. Today was Family Day. The daycare our son attends combined Mother's and Father's Day into a Family Day event for kids to show gratitude to their families. There were performances, and I enjoyed taking photos and catching up with other parents. The only downside was Mason couldn't attend due to work. It's work, I'll show him the photos later. But Mason managed to finish up and arrived just in time. As we were about to leave, Lily approached. "Seriously, work clothes to pick up your kid? How could you show up like that?" People turned to look. The atmosphere grew tense, but Lily seemed oblivious. She continued, "Honestly, low-class workers have no shame, and on top of that, you're from the countryside, such a hopeless case. This daycare isn't for low-class families like yours." She then approached our son. "Being low-class is genetic, you know. It's sad you were born into it." She laughed. There was a collective gasp from the parents. But Lily seemed to think they were on her side. I stepped in. "Lily, don't say such things in front of the kids." But when I saw Mason's face, I was at a loss for words. "Oh, am I being rude? But it's the truth, isn't it?" Lily's once cheerful face turned cold and calculating. Yet, she seemed oblivious to the change in Mason's demeanor. She continued to smirk and provoke me, seemingly unaware of the disapproving looks from the surrounding parents. Just then, Lily's husband Tyler pulled up in a flashy Mercedes, honking loudly.
"Sorry for the wait, Lily. I'm here to pick you up,"
he said as he approached. Before he could get to her, the principal hurried over.
"Lily, I'm sorry for the short notice, but we would appreciate it if you could refrain from accompanying your child to school for a while." "What? Why?"
"Why? Are you siding with these country bumpkins?" Lily snapped at the principal.
I'm not siding with anyone. Every child in our care is precious to us like angels."
"So, you're saying my child isn't welcome here?"
"No, your child is one of our angels. It's you we would prefer not to have around,"
the principal said firmly. Tyler, confused by the situation, asked,
Excuse me, what's going on?"
Before the principal could answer, Lily pointed at Mason, me, and our son. "Look, this low-class worker in his dirty work clothes is an eyesore. I tried to put him in his place, and now they're treating us like this." Realizing who she was pointing at, Tyler's face turned pale. But Lily continued her tirade. "This is why I hate country folks. They're just jealous of us." Feeling uncomfortable, I said, "Lily, maybe you should take a look around and see how everyone's reacting." She looked around and noticed the circle of parents and their partners, all with disapproving looks. "Why are all of you staring at us like that?" she asked, trying to grab Tyler's hand, but he pulled away. Holding their child, Tyler shouted,
"I had a feeling you looked down on people, but I never thought you would be this shameless."
He then approached us, deeply bowed, and said,
"I'm truly sorry. I'll come to apologize properly later."
Lily was stunned. As Tyler walked away without looking back, she shouted, "What's going on? Why are you siding with a low-class worker?" Before Mason or I could respond, the principal explained that Mason's company, run by his maternal family, is one of the largest in the area. Many parents at the school work there, and almost everyone in the community has some connection to it. "But still," Lily tried to argue. Mason interrupted.
"Our company doesn't only work with your husband's firm. We have been doing them a favor by taking on their low-profit projects. I can ignore personal insults, but when you hurt my child, that's where I draw the line. We'll be cutting ties with your husband's company."
"Fine. We'll find another supplier. My husband will probably be happy not to deal with this backwater place anymore," Lily retorted. As other parents began to leave, Lily realized she had no ride home. She tried asking the few remaining parents for a lift, but they either ignored her or audibly scoffed. The school, known for its vast playground and private farm, was located quite a distance from the town center up a hill. Eventually, only our family remained. Lily, seemingly desperate, approached us. "You'll give me a ride home, right?" Mason quickly retorted,
"I don't think someone like you would want to ride in a car owned by a low-class worker like me, right?"
leaving Lily stunned. Lily tried to get a ride from the teachers, but they all claimed they were busy. She then tried to call a taxi, but due to a country music concert in the neighboring town, none were available. She decided to walk home, but her 2.75-inch heels weren't suitable for the journey. By the time she reached the bottom of the hill, she was a mess. After numerous calls, Tyler finally came to pick her up. However, he had already heard about Mason's decision to halt business dealings. This led to a massive argument in the middle of the street, which escalated to the point where the police were called. The next morning, Tyler, accompanied by his boss, visited Mason's company to apologize. However, after hearing the full story, the company's management was furious. They decided to continue their business dealings but refused any further discounts. Tyler left looking defeated. Word of Lily's outburst spread quickly in the tight-knit community. She became the subject of whispers and giggles wherever she went, eventually leading her to become a recluse. Tyler, blamed for causing issues with a major client, was transferred to an even more remote location. As for me, I continue to enjoy my days, juggling parenting and household chores. Surrounded by the smiles of my loved ones, I realize that happiness can be found anywhere.
My name is Adeline. I grew up with my dad and mom, just the three of us. Recently, I decided to marry Philip, my boyfriend, and move out of the home I grew up in. I met Philip through mutual friends. He works for a well-known company in town and is often considered a top-notch professional. He's very responsible and kind. My parents were thrilled when they learned I'd be marrying him. With my marriage, Mom seemed relieved that her years of parenting were coming to an end. It was as if this gave her the chance to refocus on her own life. Since I started elementary school, Mom has been working as a chef at a nursing home. Cooking is her passion. Sometimes she would even serve her creative dishes at the nursing home she worked at. I've heard stories about how the residents eagerly awaited her meals every day. That's how delicious her cooking was. Praise never got to her head. She took cooking classes and was always learning. Mom had always been diligent about following her dream. Her dream was to have her own restaurant one day. Seeing people smile while eating her dishes brought her immense joy. She often said, "I'd love to serve my dishes in a small restaurant when I'm older." Though she said it might remain just a dream, there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. But then, a twist of fate changed everything. Around the time I moved out after my wedding, unexpected news came Mom's way. She and Dad would often dine at a bar run by her friend's elderly parents. It was a quaint place with lovely conversations, meticulously prepared dishes, and select drinks that Mom always raved about. But due to their old age and declining health, they decided to close the bar. It was in such a prime location, too good to be left unused. When they thought of renting it out to someone, Mom's name was the top of the list. They believed that with her culinary skills and lovely personality, she would cherish and take care of the place. After discussions, they decided they wanted to pass the bar on to Mom. When Mom heard this, she was taken aback by the suddenness of it all. However, opportunities like this might never come again. She seemed to understand that if she missed this one, there might not be another. Mom decided to take over the bar from her friend's parents and start her own place. Dad was all for it, and they worked together to create their dream bar. When their dream was finally becoming a reality, Mom was ecstatic. She paid attention to every little detail to ensure no regrets. Seeing the happiness on Mom's face, I felt sure the bar would be a hit. A few months later, everything was set to open. Mom's bar is a quaint spot that opens in the evening. There isn't a fixed menu. Instead, she serves the best items she gets her hands on that day, presenting them as creative cuisine. It felt like a great idea packed with Mom's dreams. Initially, I was worried about whether customers would come, but there was no need for concern. Mom's bright and sociable nature quickly drew in regulars. Above all, it was Mom's cooking that brought the rave reviews, and word of mouth soon spread. Most of the customers were locals, but passers-by would also stop by and have a good time. The homely atmosphere was a hit, and the bar was busy every day. I visited the bar with Philip once. Philip loved Mom's dishes, and he made a suggestion. "The food is truly delicious. Would you consider using our vegetables?" Philip's family owned a greengrocer. Having been in the business locally for a long time, they had a wide network and offered fresh produce. Philip proposed a contract between Mom's bar and his family's greengrocer. Fresh harvest grocers, right? That's a generous offer. I'd love to. With the contract, she'd get a regular supply of quality ingredients. Mom was thrilled at the prospect of making even better dishes. Soon enough, Mom and Philip's dad discussed the details over the phone, and a formal contract was agreed upon. Once everything was settled, a delivery of vegetables from Philip's family was sent over. All of them were vibrant and fresh. It was clear they were top quality. It might cost more than the supermarket, but serving such great produce will surely make the customers happy. Mom always prioritized seeing the smiles of her customers over profits. "I'm glad you like them." Seeing Mom content with the vegetables, Philip grinned, looking slightly embarrassed. Then one day, Mother-in-law visited Mom's store. Interesting. Without any greetings, she looked around as if assessing the place. It had been a while since they met during a formal introduction for the marriage, so Mom honestly didn't know much about her character. Despite feeling a bit annoyed by Mother-in-law's scrutinizing look, Mom greeted her warmly. "Oh, you're Philip's mother, right? Welcome. We really value and use the vegetables you supply." "Thanks," was all Mother-in-law replied, avoiding eye contact and frowning. Not understanding the sour expression, Mom offered her some water. "Here's some water. I'll prepare a meal for you shortly. Please take a seat." However, Mother-in-law stopped her with a gesture. "No need. I just came to check out the place today. I was concerned whether our family's produce was properly being used in such a small establishment." Stunned by her arrogant attitude, Mom was at a loss for words. "Seems like you have a good reputation here. That's nice," Mother-in-law said with a sly grin. Mom just listened in silence. "Well, it appears you're using our veggies properly. It would be a problem if you weren't. Oh, since I'm here, how about I book for 50 people? As you can see, this is a small place, and I don't think we can accommodate 50 people." After making several snide remarks, she now proposed an impractical reservation. The eatery, with a few tables and counter seats, couldn't possibly fit 50 people. "You think this tiny space can handle a big crowd? Then let's see your cooking skills. Pack them into lunchboxes. I'll order 50 for next Friday's lunch. Can you handle that?" The mother-in-law's taunting challenge seemed to ignite Mom's fighting spirit. "Lunchboxes it is. I can definitely make 50 by next Friday." With that reply, the mother-in-law left with a sour look on her face. While Mom had confidently accepted the challenge, she had never prepared such a large order before. I decided to lend a hand, knowing it'd be quite the task for one person. But Mom was so skilled, I often felt she didn't even need my help. I just focused on packing the food so it looked as appetizing as possible. Before we knew it, we had only 10 minutes left to the mother-in-law's pickup time. We managed to create vibrant, tasty lunchboxes on time. This has to be perfect. I put my all into it. There's no way she can complain now. Mom looked really proud of her accomplishment. She had probably been planning the recipes for this day. I noticed several detailed recipe notes pinned up in the kitchen. Clearly, she was very dedicated to this task. But as soon as the noon hour approached, there was no sign of the mother-in-law. After waiting for 30 minutes past the pickup time, I called her to check in. "Hello, we have the lunchboxes ready. Will you be coming to pick them up? If you're busy, we can deliver them for you." What she said next was utterly shocking. "Oh dear, I completely forgot about the lunchboxes. I already had my lunch. Just cancel my order." Wait, we've already made them. We can't cancel now. At least pay for the cost? You can't be serious. Families shouldn't charge for cancellations. Anyway, I'm busy. She had not only forgotten her order, but now refused to pay. I was stunned, lost for words, when she abruptly hung up. Heartbroken, I told Mom about the conversation. She looked devastated. I should have taken payment up front, and accepting an order for $50 was unrealistic. I shouldn't have let her provoke me. Mom seemed deeply upset by the hard work she put into those lunchboxes. It's not Mom's fault. She simply kept her promise and made the order as requested. It's mother-in-law who's in the wrong here. It felt such a waste to dispose of these wonderful lunchboxes. Hoping against hope, I decided to call Philip. Philip, I'm sorry to disturb you at work. No worries, it's almost lunchtime anyway. What's up? Since it's almost lunchtime, I have a favor to ask. What happened? Well, mother-in-law had placed an order for 50 lunchboxes today, but she canceled at the last minute. I didn't want them to go to waste, so I was wondering if anyone at your office would want them. Hearing this, Philip let out a deep sigh. Ugh, I can't believe it. I'm really sorry for the trouble Mother has caused. She's always been like this. We'll sell all those lunchboxes at my company. Can you bring them over? I could detect the anger in Philip's voice. Thank you. It's such a waste to throw them away. We can give them out for free, and if there are any leftovers, you can bring them back home. As promised, I delivered the lunchboxes to Philip's office. Mom, still reeling from the lunch incident, felt too upset to continue with the evening shift. As she saw customers outside looking at the "Closed for Today" sign, she seemed even more downcast. At that moment, Philip, having finished work, hurried over. Mother-in-law, I deeply apologize for the inconvenience my mother caused. There's no need for you to apologize, Philip. Please, look up. Philip, still with his head down, continued his tale. Actually, Mom, mother-in-law was jealous of your shop. She envied you because she couldn't do it herself. I never imagined she'd go this far to harass you. I'm truly sorry. Mom was taken aback, unaware that mother-in-law felt this way about her. Mother-in-law was envious because people liked Mom, and she even opened up her own store. Unlike Mom, mother-in-law wasn't good with people. She often had conflicts with others, leading to multiple incidents in the past. She always resented those who seemed better off than her, spreading rumors and even getting into altercations. Every time she caused trouble, Father and I stepped in, but this time, it's unforgivable. Philip contacted father-in-law and asked him to bring mother-in-law to the store. Shortly after reaching out, father-in-law, almost dragging mother-in-law, arrived at the shop. I apologize for my wife's selfish actions. We will cover all the expenses. Apologize, now! Father-in-law urged mother-in-law. However, mother-in-law sulked and pouted. You don't need to pay. Philip sold all the lunchboxes at his office, thankfully, so we didn't end up at a loss. Mom declined their offer. Upon hearing this, mother-in-law exploded in anger. You think your son like that? Just because you own a store doesn't mean you're above everyone. Mother-in-law's face turned red as she shouted. Philip was supposed to stay with us. This is so infuriating. The sight of mother-in-law shouting in blind rage was unsettling. Father-in-law tried his best to calm her down, but she was beyond control. Just then, a regular customer, noticing the commotion, walked in. The customer recognized that the disruptor was the Fresh Harvest Grocer's mother-in-law. With father-in-law, the customer helped restrain mother-in-law. Watching this unfold, a distressed mom stood up and addressed mother-in-law sternly. I can't tolerate you causing a scene and bothering our customers. You act all high and mighty for such a small store. At mother-in-law's words, Mom's anger exploded. Who do you think you are, acting all high and mighty? If you feel that way, fine. I'll end our business agreement with your store. What? Wait, what did you just say? Did you not hear me? I said I'm ending our agreement with your store. As Mom declared this, father-in-law immediately became frantic. No, anything but that. Father-in-law desperately didn't want to sever the business contract with Mom. In truth, the business of Fresh Harvest Grocers, which had been running for many years and stocked fresh vegetables, had been declining year by year. Though Fresh Harvest Grocers provided quality produce, they weren't meeting the community's needs. Recently, the number of apartments and single individuals, including students, had grown in the area. Additionally, several big supermarkets had started to emerge. With more people looking to buy cheaper vegetables at supermarkets, Fresh Harvest Grocers saw a gradual decline in customers. Despite Fresh Harvest Grocers' widespread reputation, they couldn't sell a large variety of veggies at low prices like major supermarkets. Therefore, having small businesses like Mom's continuously purchasing vegetables was something father-in-law greatly appreciated. Terminating that contract was the last thing father-in-law, the business owner, wanted. I beg you, please, reconsider the contract. I'll talk to my wife about her behavior. Why does it matter? It's just a small store like mine. You always act like this! It's because of that attitude that we've lost customers. You need to reflect on your actions. Not only was mother-in-law rude to Mom, but she was also often curt with other customers. She sometimes made unnecessary comments, leading some customers to feel uncomfortable and decide not to return to Fresh Harvest Grocers. To think you can't even understand when it's spelled out for you! And to behave this way towards Philip's mother-in-law? It's unforgivable! Mother, Adeline, I deeply apologize for my wife's rudeness. Biting his lip and holding back his emotions, father-in-law grabbed mother-in-law's arm and left the store. Mother-in-law never apologized to Mom in the end. Later on, Philip visited Mom's store with a big smile on his face. Anything good happen? Well, my parents got divorced. Since Mother left, the customers have been returning, and the business is slowly stabilizing. It feels like a troublemaker is gone. Father-in-law, fed up with mother-in-law's lack of remorse, decided to divorce. But mother-in-law didn't accept the divorce easily. She impulsively initiated divorce mediation, but in court, she only made self-centered remarks. She rudely addressed the family mediation committee, which put her at a disadvantage in the mediation she started. She had no allies, and the divorce was easily granted. Father-in-law seemed relieved that the divorce didn't take much effort. Now, he has no contact with his ex-mother-in-law, and their relationship is completely severed. Now, without Mother causing any more trouble, I can't stand causing you any more inconvenience. Philip seemed to feel a weight lifted, recalling all the past troubles with mother-in-law. Philip, I'm looking forward to our continued relationship. Mom was carefully prepping the vegetables from Fresh Harvest Grocers. In reality, she hadn't terminated the contract and continued to buy from them. No matter how bad mother-in-law's attitude was, Mom genuinely loved the produce from Fresh Harvest Grocers. The tasty vegetables were popular with customers, enhancing the reputation of Fresh Harvest Grocers. Because of this, some regular patrons specifically came for their produce. Promoting Fresh Harvest Grocers, Mom's store became very significant for father-in-law. Moreover, there was more good news. The lunchboxes sold to Philip's company were a hit among employees, leading to more requests. Thanks to that, Mom began selling lunchboxes at noon. The nutritionally balanced lunchboxes were popular, especially among younger locals. With good sales and affordable pricing, nothing was left unsold. She also received bulk orders from Philip's large company, and though busy, Mom joyfully cooked. Years later, her shop still thrived. She could afford to hire part-time workers, easing her burden. A woman, fond of Mom's cooking, came to apprentice. I never thought I'd become a master. It's embarrassing to call myself that. Fulfilling her dream of having her own shop, Mom's next dream was to sustain it. She thought of entrusting her dream to this woman. As Mom adeptly taught the apprentice, she indeed looked like a master chef. I want to keep enjoying Mom's cooking, so I wholeheartedly support her dream of continuity for her shop. Where on earth is my daughter-in-law? She's done with her surgery. Why isn't she back with her change of clothes and hospital essentials? She could at least shoot us a message. As my husband speaks, I hear my daughter-in-law yelling in the background, but it's already too late. Mom-in-law, I'll get my underwear and other stuff at the hospital gift shop. Please, don't go through my drawers. My husband has never been keen on visiting my parents' house since we got married, and it seems the same goes for my daughter-in-law. She and my daughter have kids of the same age, and whenever my daughter visits her grandparents, my daughter-in-law always tries to flaunt her standing. Yep, life's a handful sometimes. I'm living with my slightly older husband, along with my son and his wife. She complained about a sudden stomach ache and was rushed to the hospital. Thankfully, it turned out to be just appendicitis, so it's not life-threatening. My husband and grandchildren also went to the hospital. Once my eldest son arrived, I returned home to prepare for her hospital stay. Sorry, but I'll go back to the hospital tomorrow. That's what I told them, and it led to a shocking turn of events. Sure, marriage links two families together, and it comes with its challenges, but I think that's part of what marriage is all about. I couldn't bear the thought of someone arbitrarily making decisions and keeping it a secret. If this were feudal Japan, it'd be straight to seppuku. I sometimes can't help but think in extremes. I told them over the phone that I would visit the hospital, not on the day my daughter-in-law was admitted, but the next day. I needed time to emotionally prepare. Alright, let's get everyone on the same page. My name is Grace. I'm 62 and work as a freelance funeral service director. Different religions and sects have their own rituals, so it's actually a pretty challenging job, but it's work that needs to be done, so I take pride in doing it. My husband is slightly older, and we met through work. Back in my day, we didn't fuss about how much the other made or what job they had. I got married and had kids shortly after junior college. That's just how it was. Nowadays, I have a job and can support myself. I even find myself wondering, is marriage really necessary unless you're with someone special? My husband is a bona fide baby boomer. He thinks our generation has significantly impacted American culture and society. Maybe that's why he never helps around the house. Today, guys who can cook are popular, but not him. Even when taking care of his parents, he never helped, not even with encouraging words. So I was planning on divorcing him after his parents passed away. But we've spent so many years together, it's not that easy to just cut him off. My husband has retired from work and is now leading a relaxed life. It seems that he's become more mellow because of it. That's what I thought until my daughter-in-law came into the picture. Though he doesn't have many hobbies, he wanted to keep active and extend his vibrant years, as he put it. So he started going to the library. He claims that reading stimulates the brain and that walking around looking for various genres of books also strengthens his legs. But it seems like the only books he actually borrowed were at the beginning. I can only picture him nodding off in the library chairs. Moreover, he never helps with household chores, so juggling that with my job was quite tough. But things got easier when my son and daughter-in-law moved in with us. She's a homemaker, and I'm truly grateful that she helps around the house. My son and daughter-in-law got married 3 years ago and have a 2-year-old boy. The grandchild is adorable, and I can't help but spoil him, much to my own detriment. Despite minor issues, I thought these days would last a long time. I have a daughter. She's 2 years younger than my eldest son. She's the same age as my daughter-in-law, and they gave birth around the same time. My daughter lives nearby and visits often. Maybe that's why they always try to show off their own standing. It's like they're competing to prove whose child is cuter. Ah, you're visiting again? Is it bad to visit my own parents? That's not what I'm saying. Awkward silence falls. Look, the grandchildren are playing together nicely. Isn't that enough? Well, I plan to enroll mine in preschool next year. Preschool? What's that? Coincidentally, we're also planning to send ours. You too? Isn't it too early for preschool? Mom, please keep quiet. Starting at 3 is already late, you know. Exactly. Haha. It turns into this atmosphere every time. My daughter-in-law walks into the room without making any tea. But if preschool starts at 3, my daughter probably won't visit as often. And my daughter-in-law will probably go out more often, so I felt a bit relieved. However, my daughter soon drops a bombshell. Hey, Mom, doesn't that kid look nothing like Jack? She says, observing my eldest son's child intently. Really? They say kids look like various relatives when they're young. At that time, I didn't take my daughter's words seriously. After all, even among grandchildren, I can't help but find the one my daughter gave birth to more adorable. Maybe that's why my daughter-in-law gets in a bad mood when my daughter visits, and that sour mood impacts me. My eldest son and his wife got married through a friend's introduction. By the time they both crossed 35, they were getting anxious, and a friend introduced them. It seems my daughter-in-law had the same motivations. They moved in together because my son's work was conveniently located, and they wanted to have a child soon after getting married. The following year, they had a child, and she became a homemaker. Very much the diligent, perfectionist, middle-aged person. I heard she used to be a wedding planner, quite the opposite of me. She resigned because she wanted to focus on parenting. My daughter-in-law apparently plans to return to work once the kids are a bit older. She once told me she never compromises on housework. During her long years of being single, she learned all about chores and cooking. Every month, she decorates the house with seasonal flowers and is picky about the ingredients she uses. For holidays like Easter, Halloween, and Christmas, she goes all out with decorations. She's a great cook, and her cleaning is impeccable. On the flip side, ever since she moved in, she won't let me lift a finger. "You've been working, mother-in-law. You should rest." "It's no big deal, really. This is my job after all," she'd say, not even letting me clean up after meals. She's even rearranged the flow of household chores in various setups. Apparently, she's switched the contents of the drawers too. She's labeled everything so you know exactly where things are at a glance. My aging husband loves the changes, but it's left me feeling like this isn't my home anymore. "Mother-in-law, you put the towels in the wrong place again." "Ah, old habits. Sorry about that." I'm constantly being corrected. I just wish she'd consult me before making changes around the house. My husband is from the baby boomer generation. People say that they like to go with the flow and follow trends, but he's not like that. My husband is pretty indifferent and doesn't like being part of a group. He's not one to follow trends either. Maybe that's why he's always been reluctant to interact with my family. It's been that way since we got married. While we often hear about living in an era where people could live to 100, studies show that men typically live to about 76 and women to about 81. My dad passed away from illness 2 years ago. He lived a bit longer than the average life expectancy, making it to 78. My mom now lives with my sister, who is 3 years younger than me. One day, my husband randomly asked, "Is your mom still, healthy?" "Yes, she just has high blood pressure at the moment. Otherwise, she's fine." The average lifespan for American women is around 81, you know." "So what?" "How old are you now, mother-in-law?" "I'm 81. What's your point?" "You better warn her to be careful then." "Careful about what? Don't be ominous." "Well, you're a funeral director, so you'll know what to do." My husband would say something like that and then quickly make himself scarce. I was at a loss for words. Flashbacks of my life with my husband flooded my mind. His lack of support in raising our kids, taking care of his parents, and even connecting with my family. Once you start down that path, there's no end to the issues. I began to feel like I'd hit a wall in my marriage. My mom's health isn't great, but my sister lives with her, so I'm not too worried. My sister is a single career woman. She even got her retirement age extended, planning to work until she's 70. Apparently, being single in your 50s and beyond is increasingly common, so it's not a rare story. My husband's lack of involvement with my family also means my daughter-in-law doesn't have much good to say about them either. "Your sister is still working, right?" "Yes, she is. She's single and very responsible." "I assume she's saved a lot of money then." I wondered what her point was. My sister's savings have nothing to do with her. I found it a bit tacky and couldn't understand what my daughter-in-law was getting at. It's been 3 years since Dad passed away, so we all gathered at my childhood home for the first time in a while. The last time we came here, my daughter-in-law immediately said something specific, and this time she brought up the same topic again. "Doesn't anyone clean around here?" "My mom is old, and my sister is busy with work." "Don't you think it's pretty bad?" Even my husband chimed in. "Let's go home after the prayers." "Enough! Both of you!" My sister stepped in front of me and said, "I've done my best to clean up, and we've all gathered here for the first time in 3 years. Can we please stay until the end?" She apologized deeply. My husband and daughter-in-law finally kept quiet, and things settled down for the moment. We finished the prayers, but they didn't touch any of the snacks we prepared, and they left. My eldest son and I felt bad for my mom and sister. When we apologized to them, they told us not to worry, which was a relief. I decided then and there not to invite my husband and daughter-in-law to my family's home anymore. My already stubborn husband has become even more so since living with a daughter-in-law. Or more like, he seemed whipped by her. One day, my daughter came to visit with my grandchild. There are many preschools nowadays, and they were visiting some. They came to update me. My grandchild had been praised for their drawing at one of the preschools. I was delighted and said, "Oh, that's wonderful." It seems the daughter-in-law overheard the conversation. Upset, but silent, she left the house. Turns out she took our grandchild straight to the preschool. Seems like she had to prove something. Later, she proudly informed me they had done some drawing and got praised for it. She looked exhausted, and it was hard not to feel bad for our grandchild, being dragged along. Could it be that she's overwhelmed? "Well, that's wonderful," I said, probably not hiding my strained expression well. "So, you do prefer your daughter's child over mine, don't you?" Daughter-in-law said sharply before disappearing into her room. She even told her husband later, "Don't let her daughter come over as much. We're a married couple now." Her husband backed her up. "She can come back to her own home any time she wants," I argued. He ignored me, turning his back. I contacted my daughter, advising her not to stir the pot. One day, daughter-in-law complained about stomach pains. Our grandchild told me, but she keeps saying it's not a big deal. "Your sweating says otherwise. Let's go to the hospital," I insisted. "No, I'm fine," she kept saying. I had my husband talk to her too. But the daughter-in-law insists that she'll be fine if she just takes a little rest. So there I was, handling the chores. Just when I thought it was good that I had a day off, I heard her groan in pain. I called an ambulance right away. I went along, and soon her husband and grandchild followed. Turns out it was appendicitis. Thankfully, not life-threatening. I returned home to gather her hospital necessities, while our eldest son took over. Ever since my daughter-in-law moved in, things around the house seemed to get moved. Even the places where I'd always put my important things had been shifted. I eventually find my insurance cards and toiletries and stash them into my bag. Thinking about grabbing some spare clothes for my daughter-in-law, I start pulling out drawers. Wondering if I'll get scolded for going through her lingerie, I open each drawer in sequence. Finding the one with her lingerie was a hassle, as there was no label. Once found, it's neatly organized, just as expected. Then out of the blue, I notice a box about the size of an A4 paper, in the drawer. It could be soap or something, but what's this box? Curiosity piqued. I opened it and find disturbing pictures of my husband and daughter-in-law. There are also some documents in there. Panicked, I flee to my parents' house immediately. On the way, I get a call from my husband. "When are you coming back? The daughter-in-law's surgery is over, and you're still not back with her clothes and hospital items. Call us." "I'll go to the hospital tomorrow," I say, hanging up. In the background, I hear my daughter-in-law say, "Mother-in-law, please don't open the drawers. We can buy underwear at the hospital shop." But it's too late. I already have my proof. The photo in the box shows my husband and daughter-in-law together. What's more, they're pictured alongside some documents, and both are beaming, holding those papers in their hands. Those papers are for filing for a posthumous divorce. It's the first time I've seen the actual documents. This allows you to sever the marital ties with your deceased spouse's family after their death. I hear it's become 2.5 times more common over the past decade. In the world of public opinion, the most common reason for posthumous divorce is so that when I die, I won't have to be buried in my husband's family grave. It's a legal document. Once it's submitted, it can't be revoked. It's specifically to cut off relations with your spouse's family. You can submit it any time after your spouse has passed away. Moreover, with posthumous divorce, you only sever relations with your spouse's family. On paper, your marriage stays intact. So you can still inherit property. For my job, the only jewelry I wear is pearls. All my other jewelry stays tucked away, and yet it was all found in that box. At some point, they became my daughter-in-laws. Maybe my husband was behind this. It became clear that he planned to inherit my property and cut ties with my family if I were to pass away first. To think he had such low opinions of my family. I took care of his mother and father, you know. But my husband never lifted a finger or offered a word of thanks. Just remembering it makes my blood boil. The day after my daughter-in-law was hospitalized, I confronted her with these documents and a lawyer by my side. Why are you showing up at the hospital now? You're late. I had matters to discuss with my lawyer. What? You're consulting a lawyer? I'm not just submitting this, I'm filing for divorce. I slapped down the document along with a photo of my husband and daughter-in-law holding it. That's why I told you to buy my underwear from the hospital gift shop. My daughter-in-law muttered. That's not what this is about, okay? I'm not saying I want a divorce from you. It's the same thing. This document says you want to cut ties with my family. During the time I took care of my father-in-law and mother-in-law, not once did I receive a word of appreciation. The ongoing reluctance to visit my family's home, even making my sister offer a heartfelt apology. The growing discomfort as things in our house were replaced without any discussion. My jewelry, finding it packed in a box along with documents. These were the grievances I'd bottled up for so long. I just let it all spill out, more than I could even remember. My goodness, you don't have to get so worked up, my flustered daughter-in-law said, but then my eldest son cut in. What the heck are you doing behind my back? Dad, you too! And that's what I unleashed on my daughter-in-law. Just then, our daughter walked into the hospital room. Did you come to visit? How sweet. In an attempt to lighten the heavy atmosphere, my daughter-in-law even forced a smile. Appendicitis, huh? Do they also operate on your head or something? What are you talking about? Ow, that hurts. Guess it's too soon to be making jokes after surgery. I hope the wounds don't get worse, I thought to myself. I did some digging. Your child isn't Jack's, is it? What? That's impossible. There's no way. Jack's been used by this woman. I made sure to investigate. Eldest son was so shocked he lost his words. Before you got involved with my eldest son, you were seeing someone else, weren't you? We'll let the lawyer do the talking from now on. I returned home and reached out to my daughter. Turns out she also had something to tell me. It was shocking. If the child isn't my eldest son's, then that changes everything. Seeing my distress, my daughter called in a lawyer. She left the room, taking both grandchildren with her. This was not a story for young years. Turns out, daughter-in-law was already seeing a married man before meeting my eldest son. She met my son through an introduction, and they got married. When she found out she was pregnant, she wasn't sure who the father was, meaning she was dating both men at the same time. My daughter started investigating when she noticed the child didn't resemble Jack, and DNA testing confirmed they weren't related. She even had investigators dig deeper. Faced with all this evidence, daughter-in-law finally broke down. I never intended to deceive anyone. But you did deceive him. Why not keep going as we have been? Husband, who's become quite friendly with daughter-in-law, seemed unfazed. I'm filing for divorce. Do whatever you want. With that, I left the room. I never said anything about getting a divorce. I pretended not to hear. I'll go to Mom's place. I'll send the divorce papers later. How could you? I thought we were truly happy. Hearing this, daughter-in-law broke down again. She couldn't keep up the facade of a perfect life any longer. A concerned nurse rushed in. Is the wound hurting? Are you okay? And that's when the kind nurse said, It's not the physical wound that hurts, I thought to myself. Husband reluctantly filled out the divorce papers. He can't do housework to save his life. Daughter-in-law can't go back to her parents' home because she deceived my eldest son into having a child. I'd heard she even talked to a married man she used to date, but he paid her no mind and she's not receiving any child support. Probably that married man is dating another single woman by now. Life's tough just relying on my husband's retirement benefits. Preschool seems like a distant dream. My daughter-in-law is apparently going back to her job as a wedding planner, but juggling that and childcare is tough. Moreover, she still refuses to sign the divorce papers with my eldest son. She probably thinks he'll come back to care for my husband when the time comes. Well, life doesn't always go as planned. She must want to have the perfect life. As for me, I'm still working as a funeral service director, while living with my mom, sister, and eldest son. My aging mom seems the happiest with a lively household. My eldest son seems a bit disenchanted with marriage, but I'm hoping he'll find someone new and good. I sometimes think that if I'd separated from my husband when I was younger, maybe I'd have another chance. Planning to make up for lost time by being dutiful to my parents. I'm also talking about maybe going on a trip with my sister, who I've troubled in the past.
Don't come to the wedding. It's a happy day after all. When I received that call from the bride, my mind went blank. Why would she say something so hurtful? Is it my fault? Well, if she feels that way, maybe it's best I don't attend. As a groom's mother, I felt a complicated mix of anger and self-loathing. My name is Stella, and I'm 50 years old. I'm a working mom living with my husband and son. I work part-time about 4 days a week at the local supermarket preparing daily items in the kitchen. My son got a job 4 years ago, so we don't have to worry about tuition anymore. Now, it's just the house mortgage. There are still 15 years left on it. I have got to keep working. With these things in mind, I'm working again today. Actually, something wonderful happened yesterday.
Dad, Mom, I'm getting married.
My son announced this at dinner. My husband and I exchanged glances taken by surprise.
Married? Really? Who is she? When did you propose?
My husband bombarded our son with questions in his astonishment. Calm down, Daniel. I tried to soothe my excited husband, but I too was curious. So, who is she?
She's gentle and kind. Can I bring her over this Sunday?
Sunday it is then. That's right, I need to clean the house before Sunday when my son brings his fiancée over. Maybe prepare some tea cakes and even replace the living room curtains? Lost in thought, a colleague approached me.
You seem happy. Anything good happened?
Everyone in the kitchen wears large masks, so facial expressions are hidden, but did my good mood still shine through? Feeling a bit embarrassed, I replied, You caught me. My son is getting married.
Oh, congratulations. How old is your son?
He's 27 this year, finally done with parenting. It felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. Despite everything, I couldn't believe my son was getting married. You know, my son's bringing his girlfriend over this Sunday. I couldn't help but share my excitement. I can't wait. Wonder what she's like. He told me she's a gentle and kind person. I'm sure she's wonderful. I eagerly awaited Sunday. When the day finally came, I put on a bit more makeup than usual. Gotta make a good first impression. I looked in the mirror, checking my reflection. A reddish scar stretched from my right cheek to my ear. Makeup somewhat hides it, but will it still stand out? Lost in my thoughts, in front of the mirror, my husband approached.
What are you doing?
Just trying to cover this up a bit.
Don't worry too much. You're beautiful just the way you are.
His words warmed my heart. He's such a kind soul. Thank you. It's a thing of the past. I don't mind. I mean, I have my loving husband and son. What's a little scar, right? I wish I could truly say that, but a woman's vanity? Having a permanent burn mark on my face is hard to overlook. The scar is from a fire at my childhood home when I was in high school. The fire started next door, and though I narrowly escaped, it left a lasting mark. Everyone survived, and that was a miracle. But there were moments I wished the flames had taken me. I believed the scar meant no more love, no more romance. I retreated, convinced I would never be loved again. The trauma from those teenage years was overwhelming, leading to some dark thoughts. But my savior during those times was my husband. We grew up together, our families closely knit. Concerned about my despair, he would visit daily, offering words of comfort.
I don't care about the scar. You're still the same beautiful person to me.
At first, I was wary of his words, but gradually I opened up. Our bond grew, leading to marriage. I'm forever grateful to him for saving me back then and for supporting me now. Marriage is truly wonderful. I thought as much looking at my husband's broad back. The scar remains, but meeting my husband, getting married, and having our child are treasures I wouldn't trade for anything. It was just past noon when the doorbell rang. Seeing the woman our son brought home, my husband and I greeted her with warm smiles. Welcome, please come on in. I led our son and his girlfriend into the living room. Thank you for having me. Just as our son had described, she seemed calm and kind-hearted. She had a radiant fair complexion framed by beautiful black hair. Her name was Gabriela. She works as an office clerk and she's 2 years younger than our son. Both my husband and I were impressed by her modest and humble demeanor. I felt so relieved. She seemed like a good person. I let out a sigh of contentment.
So, where are you from?
My husband asked, trying to ease any tension. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina.
Ah, Charleston. Beautiful views and delicious food. A wonderful place.
Thank you. What do you do for a living?
I drive a taxi.
That's impressive, making a living driving. My husband spoke gently and Gabriella replied in the same calm manner. Our son looked relieved seeing them interact. I'm so glad you have brought such a beautiful person into our lives, I whispered to him.
You know, she's way out of my league.
He replied, blushing. I looked forward to their future together. He might be a handful sometimes, but please take care of him, I said to Gabriella. But she just gave me a vague smile, not meeting my eyes. Maybe she was still nervous? I tried to engage her more in the conversation, but she only offered polite smiles to my efforts. Is your job demanding? It's okay. Do you have any hobbies? Not really. Our conversation didn't flow as I hoped. She seemed comfortable chatting with my husband. I wondered what the difference was. Was she wary of me as her future mother-in-law? I sat there feeling somewhat isolated during what was supposed to be a bonding family meeting. Yet I noticed she kept glancing at me. Is something wrong? No, nothing. I had a hunch. It must be about the scar from my burn. Should I explain it to her? But then again, sharing a sad story on such a happy occasion didn't feel right. As I pondered this, it became time to wrap up. The day ended without us having a meaningful conversation. I didn't think she was a bad person, but I felt we just weren't on the same wavelength. Even though I had only spent a few hours with her, I had that gut feeling. Still, I wanted to celebrate their marriage grandly. After all, what matters is that they love each other. Parents shouldn't interfere too much. That's what I decided. The two got their marriage license and decided to hold a wedding ceremony a year later. Since she was a child, the bride had always dreamed of a grand wedding and was adamant about sparing no expense. I had heard a few times from my son about how particular his bride-to-be was. I sometimes wished I had my own big wedding. I never did. Conscious of the burn scars, I felt a twinge of envy. I guess it's every girl's dream, but right now I'm happy. My son moved out and it's just me and my husband. It feels refreshing, like we're newlyweds again. From now on, if we can live modestly in our old age, that's enough for us.
Hey,
What is it, Daniel?
did you send something to Gabriella?
Yes, I sent her the oranges our neighbor gave us. I had sent her a share of what we got a few days ago. Why did my husband know about it?
They said it arrived crushed and rotten.
What? They were fine when I sent them? Oh, maybe a few bad ones got mixed in and rotted? I immediately called my daughter-in-law. I am so sorry. I thought I checked them thoroughly. I would prefer if you didn't send gifts like that again. It's a bother. For some reason, she sounded hostile. But it was clear I was at fault, so I apologized deeply. I'm truly sorry. I won't send anything again. Also, we're pretty busy over here, so if you could refrain from calling too often. I understand. I'll be more mindful. She abruptly hung up. The only time I had called was to ask about the wedding. Did she really despise calls from her mother-in-law that much? She seemed like a completely different person from when we first met. Maybe it's best to limit our interactions. As I thought that and decided to limit my communication, my phone rang.
Hello, Mom?
It was a call from my son. What's up? Did something happen?
Well, Gabriella mentioned that Mom was being cold to her. Did something happen?
It's not that I'm being cold. You two are newlyweds, and you wouldn't want your mother meddling too much, right?
That's not true. She said she wants to get along.
I was about to exclaim in disbelief, but stopped myself. There is no point in me being stubborn here. Their wedding is just a few months away. Rumors of family conflict would be uncomfortable for both of them. I tried to maintain a distant relationship, but what if the daughter-in-law is trying to defame me? That feeling lingered. Then, a week before the wedding, it was during the weekday. Hello? Oh, is this mother-in-law? It's me. Oh, what's going on? It was a rare call from the daughter-in-law. It's almost been a year since their marriage certificate was issued and our awkward relationship continues. This sudden call from her, what could it be? Actually, about the wedding, can you not attend? What? Why all of a sudden? I exclaimed in surprise. Your burn scar is disgusting. It's like you're a monster. It would ruin the whole wedding. So can you understand how I feel and not come? I was lost for words at this sudden insult. I was barely able to stand while holding the phone. Daughter-in-law continued pouring out her frustrations. She had disliked me since the family meeting day. That cold demeanor and ambiguous responses were because she was uncomfortable with me. As she imagines her ideal wedding, my presence seems like a stain on it. She went into great detail. You're disgusting. Why don't you voluntarily back out? How could you live looking like that? Daughter-in-law continued to coldly berate me without any remorse. She had always despised me. I should have noticed earlier and distanced myself. It's too late now. The rift between daughter-in-law and me became insurmountable. Thinking I had to get along feels so naive now. So you're telling me to skip the wedding, right? Yes, that's right. Fine. Great, please don't come to the venue on the day. Just say you weren't feeling well. All right, I'll do that. With that, I hung up the phone with a click. Skip the wedding? Does she even know who she's talking to? Challenge accepted. I'll gladly miss it. But with that determination, I couldn't hold back the tears. On the day of the wedding, I truly didn't attend. The ceremony was scheduled for 12 p.m. But even after 10 a.m., I was relaxing at home watching TV. Suddenly, my cell phone rang loudly. Hello? Hello, mother-in-law? Father-in-law isn't here yet. Wasn't it just you who was supposed to miss? Well, Daniel is here at home, I said, glancing at my husband reading in the living room. Just a regular day off. What do you mean? He suddenly felt unwell. I was just about to let you know. I handed the phone to my husband.
Sorry, but I can't make it today. I'm feeling off, just like my wife.
Wait a minute, father-in-law, a last-minute cancellation?
Listen, you treated my wife like a monster and forced her to miss. I just don't feel up to attending.
I could tell Gabriella went silent on the other end when my husband said that. His eyes burned with anger. Normally, he's so calm and hardly ever shows anger.
Look, that's how it is, so we won't be attending.
And we didn't attend the wedding. Actually, when the daughter-in-law had called me about missing the wedding, my husband, who had just finished his night shift, had been listening in on speakerphone. He remembered every single word of that conversation. And after hanging up, seeing me in tears, he hugged me and said,
I won't let you take the blame alone. I'll skip it too. We are in this together as a couple.
I couldn't help but feel I made the right choice marrying him. We had informed our son in advance that we would be skipping the wedding. We explained everything and declared we would never be involved with a daughter-in-law again. The husband told him,
If you still want to be with Gabriella, do your best to protect her, but I cannot forgive Gabriella for insulting my wife. We don't need any further relationship with her.
Our son was deeply shocked to learn about his wife's attitude and comments towards me. He probably never imagined that his own wife could be such a person. Even if they wanted to change the wedding date, it was impossible with only a week's notice. And then came the wedding day. Our relatives were puzzled when we didn't show up. When questioned, our son spilled everything. The wedding was called off and was turned into a casual dinner gathering. Right there, our son announced his intention to divorce. Gabriella's parents, at first outraged, scolded their daughter after hearing everything from the groom. They deeply apologized to our son and offered to cover all the wedding costs. Why? This was my day. I just wanted my dream wedding. Why did this happen? I just wanted a wonderful ceremony. No, I will have my wedding. I wanted to be envied by my friends. In her wedding dress, Gabriella sobbed and screamed while the relatives watched from a distance. Afterwards, the two formally divorced. Their marriage lasted just a little over a year. Upon hearing about the whole fiasco, friends and acquaintances distanced themselves from Gabriella, leaving her isolated. From time to time, she contacts our son. Nobody's on my side, not even my friends. You're the only one for me. But our son remains steadfast and seems to ignore her. The only thing I regret is that my son's wedding ended in such a sad way. Even if it was largely Gabriella's fault, I can't shake off the guilt of being part of the reason.
It's okay, Mom. This happened because of my choices. I want a relationship like you and Dad's. I want to trust and support each other.
I never expected our son to say that to me. Overwhelmed with emotion, I gently stroked his head. Life is long. Even in tough times, it's okay. There was always chances for happiness in the future.